Overdrive today, we ride the Triumph Speed 400 and drive the new Maruti Suzuki Invicto. Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I'm Sunny Dutt. It's barely been a week since the first motorcycle from the Bajaj-Triumph partnership has launched in the country at an attractive price of 2.23 lakh rupees, and customers have been flocking towards it. In fact, a recent report from the brand has stated that over 10,000 bookings have already been made, not only for the Triumph Speed 400 but also for the Scrambler 400X, which is yet to launch in the country. It speaks of the popularity of the brand and the motorcycle itself, and Chris got a chance to ride this on a rainy day recently. Here are his first impressions.
Some say that variety is the spice of life, which is true, because in that sense, well, the sub 500cc Indian motorcycle space, well, it certainly has been spiced up this July. That's because, well, although there are great existing brands and motorcycles in that capacity space in the form of the Royal Enfield 350s, the KTM 390s, the Honda CB series, and, well, the Bajaj Domina and motorcycles of that sort, well, there are now global players who are entering that displacement category by joining up with Indian manufacturers like Harley Davidson and Hero MotoCorp, and most recently Triumph with Bajaj. Now, this motorcycle that we have out here today, this is the Triumph Speed 400. It's aggressively priced at 2,33,000 rupees ex-showroom Delhi, and we are here to find out if it's a true Triumph motorcycle in the real sense. Now, everyone that tuned into the launch of the Triumph Speed 400 was completely baffled by its pricing, which undercut even something like the Bajaj Domina 400 with its introductory price for the first 10,000 bikes. Post that, the first thing most of us thought was, if it's so cheap and affordable, they definitely must have cut corners in some way, in terms of build quality or fit and finish or something, right? Wrong. Because everything about the Speed 400 is as you would naturally expect on some of Triumph's larger capacity motorcycles. If you've previously thought that the attention to detail on motorcycles like the latest Royal Enfield J series of bikes, if that was impressive, they've gone one massive step ahead of that with this one. From the tidy wells all over its chassis, to the neat tucking away of its wiring, down to the powder textured finishes on bits like the front mudguard, the quality of clamps, the gloss finished tank, the machine finished fins on the engine, and even the stainless steel exhaust can, everything is top drawer. It feels like you're getting more than your money's worth at this rate. Class leading quality in every sense. You get LED lights at both ends with DRLs up front that are very reminiscent of bigger bikes from the British manufacturer's stable. And I absolutely love the little Triumph logo in the headlamp and LED tail lamp units, which undeniably add touches of class. The chunky golden upside down fork up front and that wide handlebar with its bar and mirrors that sit atop it give the bike a very butch, retro modern appeal. Everything about the Speed 400 looks neat, proportional and thoughtfully designed. It maintains certain design elements from the current crop of Bonneville bikes and cannot be mistaken for anything other than a Triumph motorcycle. The instrument console consists of a very neatly laid out analog speedometer and a digital LCD screen which reads out 2 trips, the time, the level of fuel, average fuel consumption, gear position indicator. No Bluetooth connectivity though with this Triumph, and honestly you won't be too bothered by the lack of it. You do get a conveniently located USB socket though, so you can mount your phone or GPS devices on the bar and still keep them charging on the go. Now, although Triumph has left out features like Bluetooth connectivity with this particular model, the Speed 400, the great thing about it is that it has included more practical features like ABS. Well, that can't be switched off. But the traction control can be, and that's not something you see every day on a motorcycle of this displacement category. Also, the liquid-cooled engine, slipper clutch, ride-by-wire throttle, all features that are useful out on the road, especially in conditions like this. And that is a brilliant thing. So although the Speed 400 packs a good amount of features, well, the real outstanding bits for me about this motorcycle have to be that 398cc single-cylinder engine. Well, it's liquid-cooled, makes around 40 PS of max power, 37.5 Nm of max torque, made it to a 6-speed gearbox, and this thing has a good amount of low-end torque.
and high up the power band as well. A good amount of juice, mid-range is just perfect. Low down the power band, things are just so smooth, refinement levels are great. And yes, also the way the chassis is set up, well, it's a hybrid chassis of sorts. So you can see parts of the tubular steel perimeter frame hidden away underneath the tank and some of the panels. And the bolt-on subframe as well. The way this motorcycle is set up is just so enjoyable. The way the power is delivered and everything is just excitement all the way through.
The Speed 400 might look like an easygoing roadster, but with the amount of power that it has to offer, well, it enters KTM 390 Duke territory. And although its acceleration of the line isn't as aggressive as that of the Austrian motorcycle, well, it's more gradual and linear, with as much as 80% of the max torque kicking in at 3000 RPM, which gives the bike a good amount of shove in the low mid-range. The 4-valve DOHC engine pulls nice and clean, which not only feels great at the bars and pegs with characterful vibes, but also it sounds great. Its first gear is short, but beyond that the gearing of the higher cogs are spot on, allowing it to be one of the most tractable single-pot motors of its time. You could be doing speeds of around 100 to 110 km per hour in fifth, brake hard, reduce speed down to about 35 km per hour and still not have to downshift at all. Even at around 100 km per hour in sixth at around 4000 RPM, the engine feels like it has hit a sweet spot and is just waiting for you to open up some more and let the speedo needle fly further up now. This is definitely a motorcycle that you could ride every day and still not get bored of riding at all. Speed 400 has been designed ground up by Triumph and out here completely built up by Bajaj. It feels like a motorcycle of remarkable quality, even when it comes to its handling mannerisms and dynamics. You'll be seated in a fairly upright position on this motorcycle with no stress on your palms as you reach for that wide handlebar, while your feet are slightly rear set in a sporty stance. The bike that we rode out on into Maharashtra's monsoons came clad with Apollo 110/70 and 150/60 section R17 tires at both ends. And although they might not match up to the M9RR while exuberantly lunging into corners, I'm thrilled to report that I walked away very impressed with their performance. Even the way the suspension is configured on this motorcycle is highly impressive. The bike takes away the sharpness of most bumps that you will come across, while the seating provides you with a good amount of space for you and your pillion to adjust yourselves and go about your business in comfort and style. Now this one is sure to ruffle the feathers of each and every other player in this displacement category, and that's not something that we as Indian motorcycle enthusiasts will really complain about.
Given this motorcycle's price, 2,33,000 rupees ex-showroom Delhi, there is nothing on the road at all that comes close to it because it ticks a lot of boxes, which is awesome. The best thing about it is there is another version of this motorcycle that's just around the corner. It's the 400X, the Scrambler, which is a slightly more off-road centric, not completely off-road focused, but that also is going to be a very, very interesting proposition when it comes out later this October.
Do let us know your thoughts about this motorcycle on our YouTube channel. We'll be back after a very short break to tell you all about the Maruti Suzuki Invicto. Welcome back, you're watching Overdrive. Maruti Suzuki has upped its game in the premium MPV space with the Invicto. Now this is a full-sized MPV, can accommodate up to 7 to 8 passengers. It's the first offering from Maruti Suzuki that only comes with a hybrid variant and an automatic gearbox. Here's Bert telling you all about it.
The largest MPV manufacturer in the country, without a doubt, is Maruti Suzuki. And the highest selling MPV, well, it's the Ertiga. It sells in its thousands, but today Maruti has set its sights several leagues higher with this, the new Invicto. Now, if the Invicto feels familiar, well, it should, because this is exactly the Toyota Innova Hi-Cross. Now, under the alliance that's shared between Suzuki and Toyota, there are going to be several products that are rebadged and shared between the two companies and sold individually through their outlets, and the Invicto is one of them. This is exactly the Toyota Innova Hi-Cross, rebadged as the Invicto with, of course, all Maruti Suzuki's adornments on it. Visually, the Invicto has got 3 areas of change. At the front end, the grille has changed. You've got now the signature Suzuki logo, the badge right there sitting up front and center, along with this chrome strip running across the grille. And of course, there's a little bit of resculpting on the bumpers. Unlike the Innova Hi-Cross, the Maruti Suzuki Invicto sits on 17-inch wheels and tires. These are 215/60 profile. The third biggest change is right here, the tail end. A little bit of sculpting on the tailgate, which is now of course powered and makes it the only powered tailgate in this segment. And then of course you've got these restructured tail lamps. Of course, lots of LED graphic elements in there, but it is a nice looking rear end, fairly attractive. The entire package for that matter, very handsome, very attractive. The middle row, well, it's very spacious. As you can see, there's a lot of knee room that we've got here. However, you cannot slide your feet forward simply because, well, as you can see, it's been packed up because that is where the battery for the hybrid system resides. It's right under the driver and the passenger, co-passenger seat. So you cannot slide your feet forward. Nonetheless, you can adjust, well, the middle row to open up and free up some more space so you can stretch out fairly comfortably. Now, the seat squab, well, there isn't a lot of under thigh support, and this could make, well, sitting in the Invicto over long journeys a little tiring. Nonetheless, a fair amount of adjustments could still ensure a fair amount of comfort as well. This is a very well spec'd cabin. You've got climate control right here. You can adjust the blower speeds and the temperature. You've got lighting systems right here on the roof. You've got the air vents right above you. You've got this fantastic panoramic sunroof, and then of course you've got these sun blinds as well. The variant that we're sitting in is the Alpha Plus variant. This Alpha Plus variant offers you a 7-seat option, a 7-seat configuration, 2 passengers in the front, 2 in the middle and 3 in the third row. However, 3 in that third row will be a little uncomfortable. Ideally, that's for 2. Now, the 8-seater variant, well, it's got a bench in the middle with a 60-40 split, so you can walk in to that third row. The third row as well has got a 50-50 seat split, so if you want to increase boot space, you want to add in something larger, those seats fold down as well. Here's something unique to the middle row. Most MPVs or 3-row SUVs for that matter have a seat adjustment right ahead of the seat. In the Invicto, well, this is right next to the seat, and that's essentially how you adjust the seat for distance. So, what is ingress and egress like into the third row? As you can see, very simple. There is a fairly large amount of space for the third row passengers. If I had to take the seat behind, well, as you can see, a fair amount of knee room, lots of headroom, but width, well, this space is ideal for 2 passengers, best to avoid a third. Now, here's one unique aspect in this third row. If there was a third passenger, well, their seat belt tethers right here at the top. It's a very unique bit. It's mounted on the ceiling, and you've got these 2 fixtures in here. One of them is for buckling up. The other fastening point is essentially to hook the seat belt back up into the ceiling. Now, this is a first for Maruti, the power tailgate in the MPV segment. And as you can see, with all 3 rows upright, there still is a fair amount of space. If I had to fold the seats down, that gives me a significant amount of space to put in a lot more luggage in that boot.
After this very short break, let's find out what this petrol hybrid powertrain feels like on Indian roads. Welcome back. Here watching Overdrive. Maruti Suzuki's Invicto is being offered only with a strong hybrid powertrain and an eCVT. No other Maruti Suzuki has offered us just one powertrain and just one gearbox in the past. Let's find out more about it.
When you switch on the Invicto, well, it directly goes into the electric mode, so you won't hear the engine coming to life, neither will you feel those vibrations. What I do like over here is this angular console which houses, well, the infotainment display, the aircon vents, the climate control system, the gear selector, and of course all those drive functions as well. All of this is stacked up in an angle in a single unit resting against the dashboard. Fantastic looking element, feels very premium, feels very futuristic as well. You've got a fantastic 10.3, it's a large display area. The climate control system, I do like the fact that you get, well, seat ventilation, and those controls are right here. And then of course you've got a whole host of buttons. That's the camera, gives you a complete 360 view. You've got a hold function, you can select the drive modes, you can get purely into the EV mode, and of course there's the traction control button that allows you to switch on and off the traction control. The Invicto will come with just the one hybrid powertrain. There are no petrol options at all in this MPV. Now the benefits for the hybrid powertrain, of course, the intent rather, is more to do with maximizing fuel efficiency. Maruti claims about 23, almost 23.5 kilometers per litre. But there are other benefits as well. One, of course, is the performance enhancement that the combined power output of the electric and petrol motor puts out. And then, of course, are the lower tailpipe emissions as well. So what are the numbers in the powertrain? Well, this has got a 2-litre petrol engine, and that has been clubbed to an electric motor, actually 2 electric motors. One, though, does the work of propulsion. The second is to charge the battery. Now, the petrol motor, well, that makes about 150 PS of peak power, whereas the electric motor, you've got about 130 PS of peak power. Max torque to the petrol motor alone is about 180 Newton meters of torque. The electric motor close to about 203, 205 Newton meters of peak torque. Combined, however, you get peak power of about 180 PS, and torque, what Maruti says, is always in the range of about 180 Newton meters of torque at all times. It's a fairly efficient powertrain, and this is clubbed to an eCVT transmission. Now that transmission is a little noisy. You can hear the entire powertrain at work, except when of course the electric motor switches on. At that point, it's a fairly silent performer, but that doesn't exist for too long. The battery pack in the Invicto, like I mentioned, sits right under the driver and the passenger seats. This is a slightly larger battery pack than conventional hybrids. It's got a 1.3 kilowatt hour battery pack, and that will give you a short driving range, but good enough to reduce emissions, to enhance efficiency, and of course to help boost performance as well. There are 3 driving modes in the Invicto. There's the Eco mode, the normal mode, and the power mode, and you can select those by pressing a button on the center console. In Eco mode, predominantly electric motor is put to work. I'm doing about 60 kilometers an hour just now, but and feels effortless, feels smooth and noise free. But if I had to step on the throttle, acceleration is brisk, is rapid. I've just crossed 100 kilometers an hour effortlessly. However, you can hear the eCVT at work. It is a bit noisy and of course continuous. Now keep in mind, the Invicto is a fairly large MPV. From end to end, it's about 4.8 meters long, stands about 1.8 meters tall, and just as wide. It's also got a ground clearance of about 180-185 mm. And now it sits on, well, the smaller 17-inch alloys and wheels. Like I mentioned earlier, 215/60 profile tires, which means you've got a slightly smaller contact patch, but it gives you better ride quality. Right now I'm in a smooth patch, but over some of the rougher sections that I drove across, the suspension has been tweaked to give it a fair amount of firmness, but nothing that feels too harsh. This is also done to control body roll. And while the Invicto tries very hard to do that, you can sense a fair amount of body roll in this. So this isn't a vehicle you'd go looking for corners in. One thing that's quite unique to the Invicto, and this is something that we really haven't seen in a Maruti before, is the long list of comfort and convenience features. This MPV is packed to the gills. You're even seeing, well, ventilated seats, you've got connected technologies, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Some of these are of course available in their other range of cars as well. But the Invicto takes this to a whole new level. The one thing that's absent though, well, wireless charging. The Invicto was recently launched and the prices are fairly attractive. You've got 3 variants. You've got the Zeta Plus 7-seater option or the Zeta Plus 8-seater option and the Alpha Plus 7-seater option. And the prices for these range from 24.79 or 24.8 lakhs going up to 24.84 lakhs for the 8-seater, whereas the Alpha Plus goes up to 28 lakhs, almost 29 lakhs ex-showroom. Not too bad pricing at all. This is one of the most expensive Marutis ever to be offered to consumers in India, but I do believe there's a fair amount of value to be had. Overall, on paper, the Maruti Suzuki Invicto looks like a win-win package. 6,000 bookings for it already. Well, that clearly indicates that Maruti is on the right track here.
As of this week, the Invicto has received over 7,000 bookings and the waiting period has extended by 2 months. But this is not the only vehicle in headlines this week. Hyundai has launched the Exter micro SUV starting at an introductory price of 6 lakh rupees and it goes up to 10 lakh rupees for the AMT variant. There are plenty of segment first features and safety tech and also a CNG option that has got everyone talking. We'll be driving it pretty soon as well. On that note, it's time for us to wrap up this week's edition of Overdrive. But do follow us on social media and we'll catch you next week. Until then, ride and drive safe.